Israeli forces are unleashing a fierce wave of airstrikes on Gaza City, pushing ahead with a plan to seize control and force the Palestinians to flee south. Entire neighborhoods like Zaytun are being pounded relentlessly, with residents describing the situation as catastrophic. As the Israeli military signals it's ready for the next brutal phase, thousands are fleeing for their lives. Inside Israel, anger is boiling over. A nationwide strike has erupted, led by families of detainees and citizens furious at the government's push to escalate the war. Protesters warn the assault puts Israeli detainees at even greater risk and accuse leaders of choosing destruction over diplomacy. I'm Hala Al-Hamalawi. This is In Focus. The Israeli military has approved plans for the next phase of its ongoing war on Gaza. According to the Times of Israel, Chief of Staff Eyal Zamir stated that operations will continue until Hamas is defeated, with the issue of detainees remaining a central focus. During a visit to Gaza, Zamir outlined the military's upcoming moves following a recent cabinet decision to conquer Gaza City. As reported by the newspaper, Zamir described the operation as part of a broader long-term strategy targeting not just Hamas, but also regional actors like Iran. The Zaytun neighborhood is currently bearing the brunt of the offensive, with residents caught in heavy Israeli fire as the campaign escalates. Joining us now from occupied Jerusalem, Mrs. Ratiba Nacha, member of the Palestinian National Action Committee. Welcome to Qnews, Mrs. Ratiba. How do you view the recent escalation in the Gaza Strip, with Eyal Zamir announcing that the military will move on to the next phase of its war in Gaza?
Yes, it seems that Netanyahu insists to occupy the whole region of Gaza and to replace the Gazan people, or maybe to transfer them out of Gaza as an option for them. And for that, he's going to do anything, even if it means let the Israeli detainees behind him and go on in on their bodies, as well as he is not taking in consideration hundreds of soldiers, Israeli soldiers that will be killed in Gaza Strip, and he's not taking in consideration the economic situation and the upsets in the Israeli community as well. So I think that this means that Netanyahu is going to implement his plan to occupy Gaza, no matter the price is. And it's like the first step of other steps that he is trying to take by announcing that he is the one who will create the generation that will build the great Israel. And that means it's a hate speech toward all the Arab world and the Middle East, that he used to say that he will change the face and the face of the Middle East. And it seems that this plan of changing the face of the Middle East starts from Gaza Strip and occupying Gaza and transferring the Palestinian people from there.
Zamir also claimed that Operation Gedaon's Chariots has achieved its objectives, stating that Hamas no longer possesses the same capabilities it had before the offensive. But has the campaign truly weakened Hamas, or has it instead fueled further resistance and radicalization among the displaced population?
Actually, it's like confusing reports that comes from the Israeli military toward or through the 22-month. It's like every time they said, and in the end of this phase, we will end Hamas and Hamas become weak. And then in the next month, they said that they need another kind of operation or phrase of operation because Hamas is become stronger. So depending on these reports, the Israeli reports, it's not something true that we can depend really on it to measure the weakness or the strength of Hamas.
Yes.
Because when they say that they nearly exclude Hamas, and then in the other day they say that Hamas becomes stronger and they have like more than 25,000 fighter. It seems not, doesn't make sense. And I want to remind the viewers that a year ago, a very great operations in Gaza City and in Zaytun neighborhood has been attacked, and they said that they ended the existence of Hamas in Gaza City. And after that, they have like 100-day operation on the north of Gaza, and they says that they ended Hamas there. And that destroyed Hamas. And now they are returning back to Gaza City to end Hamas again. It's like one of the two. Even Hamas is a ghost and it's continue to reappear. Or these operation is not targeting Hamas and the goal is not Hamas. And I believe that the goal is not Hamas or excluding Hamas. The real goal is to exclude the Palestinian people and to transfer the Palestinian people. They are targeting the civilians in the Gaza Strip to occupy Gaza and control it. And this is the real main of this operation on the Gaza Strip.
So, in your view, Mrs. Ratiba, what measurable progress has the Israeli military made towards its stated goal of defeating Hamas, and at what humanitarian cost? Now, you were just telling me that in a way they failed to achieve their goal regarding Hamas, and they continue to target civilians. Even that goal, is it achieved, or the resistance among the Palestinian people actually continues to grow?
I'm not sure that Israel is really putting excluding Hamas as a real goal. I know that the goal is excluding the Palestinian people. Because of that, they are targeting the civilians. And this is the only thing that they are doing, destroying the infrastructure in Gaza, destroying the means of living of the people in Gaza Strip, and targeting the civilians, including the children. We have more than 1/3 of the people who was killed in Gaza are children.
Yes.
So this is the main goal. And I think that Netanyahu mentioned this goal in the first week of this operation when he says, I want to transfer 1 million Gazans out of Gaza. And if they didn't got out of Gaza, the other choice will be killing them. So it's like we have just two choices, to be killed or to be transferred. And it's not about Hamas, and it's not about militarization objects, or it's not about the security of Israel, because we all know that Israel is a great army. It has a great army and a real powerful to take over Gaza Strip. But as Palestinian people, we don't have any choices instead of resisting and staying hold on our land. And this is the only option that we have.
Yes.
Because of that, Israel is facing a real obstacle to achieve its goal, because the Palestinian people have no other choice other than holding on their lands and staying in this land. And this means that they will be survived or killed. Until now, the whole international community is just watching the genocide in Gaza and the choice of killing Palestinian every day with no other choices.
With entire neighborhoods like Zaytun under heavy fire, is Israel considering any concrete plans to protect civilians and ensure access to humanitarian aid? Or this is just propaganda that Israel is making?
They put a plan to transfer million Palestinian from Gaza City to the south of Gaza. but they are still waiting for the tents and the letting of or the shaking of these tents and humanitarian aid.
Mhm. And given the widespread opposition to Israel's occupation plans from the UN and global leaders, how effective is the current military approach if it continues to provoke international condemnation and deepen Israel's diplomatic isolation?
Transferring people from their places is against the international law and it's a crime. According to the international law, Israel is not respecting the international law or any kind of conventions or agreements according to the international laws. So talking about respecting the international law or respecting the UN resolutions or anything like that is like ignoring that Israel didn't take in consideration all of these systems and saw it as a silly system that didn't fit Israel, and it's not made for Israel because they see themselves above these laws and this international law. And we saw that the representative of Israel in the United Nations says that this building is a very beautiful building from outside and full of bullshit from the inside, talking about the international law. So I don't think that Israel is taking in consideration any kind of international law or conventions in its operation, and they insist to make war crimes against the Palestinian, and they insist to have genocide in Gaza, and we have a lot of formal speech for people in this government and formal people, former responsibles in the Israeli governments talk about genocide and killing Palestinian and planning to killing Palestinian. So it's a genocide and it is planned from the beginning to kill the Palestinian people and to take over their lands and to control Gaza Strip. It's not happening by chance or because we, the Palestinian people, cause this genocide for ourselves, but it's because the Israeli government want to take over our lands and our rights, and no one is taking any real actions to stop this kind of genocide and attacks.
Reports indicate a combination of Israeli airstrikes and heavy artillery are being deployed in densely populated areas in neighborhoods like Zaytun, of course, placing civilians in grave danger. How can the Israeli government be so confident that this strategy will not also endanger the lives of the remaining detainees?
Actually, Netanyahu stopped worrying about the Israeli detainees from many months ago. It's not something new. And as we know that Zamir have like two plans in front of the cabinet, and Netanyahu refused those plans because they are not enough to put control in Gaza City. And the only obstacles was or conflict between Zamir and the government was to have a plan that make the rest of the Israeli prisoners safe. And Netanyahu insists to have a plan that didn't take in consideration the lives of the Israeli prisoners anymore, and they don't want even to, and he didn't want even to give promises for their families to keep them safe and to return them back alive. He says that I will return them back, but I'm not sure if I can return them back very soon or to return all of them alive, their families. So I think that returning them alive is not one of his priorities now, and he is just focusing on putting control in Gaza and controlling the Gaza Strip and occupying the rest of the Gaza Strip. Now the Israeli military is controlling 85% of the Gaza Strip, and they are planning to control the other 50% of the Gaza Strip.
Okay. Well, that was Mrs. Ratiba Nacha, member of the Palestinian National Action Committee. Thank you so much for your valuable insights. Meanwhile, a nationwide general strike in Israel got underway today as detainees' families protested the government's decision to expand the war in Gaza with a campaign to conquer Gaza City, rather than sign a deal to return their loved ones. Hundreds of thousands of Israelis took to the streets today in a nationwide general strike and mass protests, calling on the government to halt its war on Gaza and secure the release of the 50 remaining detainees held there. The Times of Israel reported that in one of the largest coordinated demonstrations since the war began, protesters shut down private businesses, blocked major roads, and held rallies across major cities. According to the same newspaper, Israeli police arrested more than 30 people as protests erupted at dozens of locations, including outside the homes of politicians, at military headquarters, and along key highways. Demonstrators lit bonfires, filled the air with smoke, and were met with water cannons as they blocked traffic. The protest was organized by the October Council, a group made up of families of detainees demanding an end to the Gaza offensive and the safe return of their loved ones. The demonstration followed a controversial cabinet decision earlier this month to advance a military push into Gaza City, despite warnings from the Israeli military that such action could further endanger the lives of the remaining detainees. And we're joined now from Cairo by Mr. Ibrahim Ad-Darawi, writer and political analyst. Welcome to Qnews, Mr. Ibrahim. How is today's nationwide general strike reshaping the public discourse in Israel regarding the genocide war on Gaza and the fate of the remaining detainees?
We should affirm that Netanyahu is still moving forward for his war on the Strip and targeting Hamas, and with no single evidence that the captives what took place today as an objection for what Netanyahu is doing from a strike into rebel, meaning that some sectors in the Israeli state announce its rebel. So we're talking about throughout nearly 2 years, the opposition to murder the families of the captives couldn't do anything with Netanyahu. This is the problem, as Netanyahu's relying on the very extremist Jewish doctrine. So the Jews on the street are stronger than the circularism. By the way, circularism is the main doctrine of the Israeli state. But whoever is controlling the Israeli state is the extreme Jewish group. So that's why Netanyahu is relying on. So to start with, it is a strong beginning, but would it be having an American support, or the American support will be only for Netanyahu and the hardliner of Zionism, particularly that the notion of displacement for Netanyahu is still there, and President Trump himself is still considering the idea, which is the Riviera of the Middle East, as Egypt had warned already of the forced displacement, as it is a red line, and Cairo would not permit the in light of the second chariot Geddon, we're talking about the first plan of generals, and then the second plan of the generals, and then the chariots get on the second, announced by the Minister of Defense. And the process of starvation that would is still in place. So the chariot down is a process of killing, and what's happening in the Gaza Strip in the shortage of medicine, food, is represent as a very dire humanitarian conditions, and that would constitute a shameful sign before the whole world. So the second chariot get on operation is a need to confine the Palestinians in Rafah that cannot contain or absorb 2 million of the Palestinian people. We're talking about incursion of the camps that shows that Israel wants to fully demolish the housing buildings completely, which is a matter I think it is fully rejected from the international community.
Yes, sir, I want to ask you about Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who has condemned anti-war protesters who have come out across the country demanding an end to the war. To what extent is the Israeli government ignoring warnings from the public about the dangers its operations pose to the lives of detainees still held in Gaza?
I think that Benjamin Netanyahu, Smotrich, and Ben Gvir wanted to blame and accuse the demonstrators, and they put them in the state of treasury. Whoever is demonstrating in Tel Aviv isn't only for calling the return of the captives, but and that's just a pretext used by the Israeli side in creating a state of fear inside the demonstrators. So we're talking about a general strike, and if it continues for 2 weeks, it will cripple the movement in Israel politically and economically. And I think that the pretext laid down by Benjamin Netanyahu isn't going to do any good. And I think whoever is going to support the Israeli side, meaning by the return of the captives, there is no differences between killing the Palestinian. The issue is just to return the detainees.
Speaking of the detainees, sir, what message are the families of detainees sending by organizing one of the largest demonstrations since the war began? Is the government willing to change its strategy based on this growing domestic pressure?
I think that the Israeli government wants to change its trajectory towards what happened by the demonstrators. Demonstrators wanted to send a message to the government, the Western world, on top of which the US. That message could be reached by the families of the detainees. The actions by the U.S. would be driven by the families, meaning that the U.S. to respond to the families of the detainees and their demands. But Netanyahu and the far-right coalition want to have a pretext through which to storm the Gaza Strip and destroy it completely. If the deal was on hold, so we having no need for Israel to strike Gaza in that way. And therefore, the international community may intervene. And I think that Netanyahu doesn't wish to the release of the captives, as they are the cause of Netanyahu's condemnation of what is he doing. If Netanyahu took him, it will be the pretext to enter Gaza, to eliminate Gaza, and to return and release the detainees. That will be the priorities of Benjamin Netanyahu. And even though it was from his priority, but no single detainees wouldn't have been released but through the negotiation. That we've happened throughout the three phases took place in January, and now we're talking about a comprehensive deal. But I think Cairo, Doha, very seriously try to have a very soon to strike a deal and an urgent intervention by the U.S. The message isn't only directed to Benjamin Netanyahu to force him to come out down from the tree he put himself on top of it, but he just wanted to continue to the war and to eliminate the Palestinian people, whoever is in there in the Gaza Strip, women and children, and the systematic starvation. We're talking about Chariot Gadon too, which is a real catastrophe. We're talking about the north, the central, and Gaza City, and then Khan Yusuf, Jabalia, and then confined the citizens in El Mawasi direct to the sea, and then the Palestinian Rafah. That would be in a very catastrophe. Half 2 million Palestinian people to live in a less than eighth of the Gaza Strip. We're talking about 2 million Palestinian people living that way, which is in a very dire condition we've never heard before in the world and in the history. In light of the killing, the starvation, refraining the medical supplies from entering the strip in that time. The injured people are getting killed due to the shortage of the medication, which is in a very shame on the whole world that they never take any actions up to now to save what is possible from the Palestinian people. Defenseless people have nothing else but to put themselves before the sea, and they're back to the war. So in that way, I think the families of the detainees are following the leaks of some short videos by Hamas, and I think they aren't going to have any good unless there is a consolidation by the some powers, strong parties, different state institution, on top of which is the Israeli establishment. If so, I think will have a real resolve and a radical solution to such a crisis between the Israeli side and the Palestinian side, specifically Hamas movement, to complete such a deal. Let's say pressure will be continued to be pressuring Netanyahu and the American administration to ask Cairo can provide a radical solution for the deal and to get things back to normal before October the 7th. And we have a visit from the Palestinian Prime Minister here in Cairo, and we're talking about a state by Cairo to achieve such a or a file of the detainees, along with the American administration, to pressure Netanyahu to submit to achieve and execute the swap of detainees, either they are partially or complete. And it is notably to say that Hamas is already responded reasonably, along with the meetings with the parties of Cairo, along with 7 factions of Palestine, and the meeting of the Palestinian Prime Minister heading to Rafah. All these, and I think after Cairo has already trained 5,000 Palestinian soldiers from the Gaza Strip, along with the Societal Support Committee presided by a public figure in Palestine, away of the factions, away of Hamas. All these are concessions provided by the Palestinian side, and Cairo have managed to convince the Palestinians to enter the aid within Gaza. We have up till now, Israel rejects the entry of Gaza into the north, into the center, in different areas that are very narrow in the Gaza Strip, which are Rafah and Al-Mas area that Israel wanted to confine the Palestinian within.
Yes, I get your point, and I'd like to thank you so much, Mr. Ibrahim Darawi, writer and political analyst. Thank you for joining us here on Q News. And this was In Focus. I'm Hela Al-Hamalawi. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more updates here on Q News.